see the corner of my house up in the corner, right behind the backhoe. Just the tip of it. Of course, we'll get a good shot of Pfizer's now. There it is. It's Pfizer's. Big old Pfizer's looming in the distance.
Hi everyone, I'm Christina Boissonneau. Our top story tonight, residents in the historic Fort Trumble area of New London are fighting to save their homes. On Monday, they'll head to court to resolve their dispute over land proposed for the multi-million-dollar redevelopment of the waterfront neighborhood. Sarah Welch live tonight in New London with more on this story. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Christina. The focus of this argument centers around what is public use. Eminent domain allows a municipality to buy up and take a person's property if it is, in fact, for public use. Neighbors in this area say when it comes to the Fort Trumble project, that isn't the case, and they say they're fighting to keep what's rightfully theirs.
Eminent domain is supposed to be used for a public use, like a road or a bridge or a public school, not to give from one private owner and hand it over to another private owner in the name of economic redevelopment.
The Institute for Justice litigates these type of cases all over the country. Opening arguments in the trial are set to begin tomorrow morning.
I won't leave. Just absolutely, unless they drag me out by my ankles, so I'm not going.
3 East Street is home to Susette Kelo. She's lived here for 4 years with her husband, Tim.
It's a nice neighborhood. Nice people living here, nice Victorian, older homes, just a real tight, family-like community. We don't want to give up our property for anything. I mean, it's not like it's for a road or a bridge or a firehouse. This is for absolutely nothing. They have no plan.
This is a working class neighborhood that's located on a beautiful stretch of waterfront property on the Thames River in New London. And I think the attitude is that what are people like this doing with this prime waterfront property? We could have other people in here that would enjoy it so much more.
The statute is authorizing eminent domain for these purposes is unconstitutional.
That is the first prong of our public use argument.
Lawyer Dana Berliner argues against what these demonstrators call eminent domain abuse. They say the New London Development Commission has no constitutional right to force people to sell their homes for the sake of economic development. It'll be 3 or 4 months at least before the Supreme Court makes its decision. If it rules against the city and in the protesters' favor, then the city will just have to work around the 7 homes.
This is not a case where you have to decide between having development on one hand and respecting the constitutional rights of homeowners on the other. They can do both.
However, based on the justices' questions, there's no telling what the court will do.
Well, property owners in one New London neighborhood may be losing a long battle to save their homes. The state Supreme Court has ruled that the New London Development Corporation can take the remaining 15 homes from near Fort Trumble State Park.
When Susette Kelo moved into her charming home in New London, Connecticut 7 years ago,
It was like I'd been here all my life. It was just a warm and inviting feeling.
a little slice of heaven on the water, the best house she could find for her money. 7 months after moving in, though, Kelo was told she had to move out.
I was thinking I had a really big problem.
The Supreme Court has agreed to decide if governments can seize people's homes and businesses for economic development projects. At issue is interpretation of the Fifth Amendment, which allows governments to claim private property through eminent domain as long as the owner is given compensation for the land being used for the public good. The case centers around several homeowners in New London, Connecticut, who filed a lawsuit after city officials announced plans to tear down their homes and build a hotel, health club, and offices.
Susette Kelo cried with joy after learning her battle to keep her home will go to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Of course, you can see the ferries go by and the submarines go by.
Kelo says she likes the riverfront view from her circa 1893 home just the way it is. She's glad the U.S. Supreme Court wants to decide if a cash-strapped city can take land that's privately owned and give it to private businesses, all in the name of generating tax revenues and jobs.
We're really just 7 people. You know, it's a big step for us to be taken by the United States Supreme Court. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, but still we have a long road ahead of us. They have more than enough room to develop everything that they want to develop. We just simply wanted to keep our homes.
But an attorney for the city counters this is necessary for the greater good.
If you don't have a job and you don't have essential services that you need, if you're in the city and the city can't afford it, then that's just as important in our view as eliminating blight or making the trains run on time.
Lawyer Scott Bullock argued the city abused its Fifth Amendment right to eminent domain, which lets governments seize land for public use. He said the law should apply to roads and bridges, not malls and luxury condos. A lawyer for the city argued eminent domain is a vital economic development tool.
It might have been impossible to build the World Trade Center where it was.
For the residents, this fight isn't about houses, it's about their homes.
It strikes me that if the Supreme Court of the United States does not side with you and your client, Susette Kelo, there is not a homeowner of limited means in the country who will be safe again. Am I missing something here?
The only thing you're missing is there's not a homeowner of any means that will be safe again, because every single home in the country would produce more jobs if it were an office building. And according to New London, that's enough. That's enough to take your house.
New London homeowners who spent 5 years fighting to keep their own houses now have 90 days to move out.
The Supreme Court sided with the city this summer, ruling it could legally seize private property for public use. This week, the city started sending vacate notices to the remaining property owners who are still fighting that.
The city of New London, Connecticut may have won the Supreme Court battle over its right to seize private property for another private use, which the city deemed in its best interest and in the best interest of the community. But as Fox News correspondent Major Garrett reports, the political war continued today when homeowner Susette Kelo testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Ms. Kelo came to Washington and was in no mood to compromise.
This battle against eminent domain abuse may have started as a way for me to save my little pink cottage, but has rapidly grown into something much larger.
In June, the Supreme Court sided with the city, touching off bipartisan outrage.
If there's anything that I think should take high priority in America, it is the protection of private property.
This is something every American and certainly every member of Congress can identify with.
New London offered to buy Kelo's home. She said principle meant more than price.
And this isn't about compensation. This is about property rights and people being able to keep their own homes.
And remember that landmark Supreme Court ruling known as the Kelo decision? The court decided in that case that eminent domain allowed the city of New London, Connecticut to seize a private owner's land and house for economic redevelopment by another private owner. The ruling was fresh and very unpopular. It forced Susette Kelo to sell her home, which she never wanted to leave. Now, 3 years later, Kelo's house has been torn down and the lot where it once stood is vacant. In fact, Real Clear Markets reports that there is no new construction in the area because the city-sponsored developer has been unable to secure financing because interest in the project is minimal.
Despite losing her battle in the Supreme Court, Kelo's fight has already prompted 42 other states to make it tougher for governments to seize property for private development.
The little pink house at the bottom of the hill is born again. It used to be here, but the city of New London evicted Susette Kelo under the hammer of eminent domain.
Your property's your property, and we shouldn't have to give up her property so somebody else can make money off it.
But Kelo did have to give it up after losing her Supreme Court battle. But moving and saying goodbye to her pink house were two completely different things. For years, she was friends with this man, Abner Gregory, who came to the rescue and bought the home for one crisp dollar bill.
Why did I buy it? To me, this house represents respect. It was a home. Somebody lived here.
For him to take this on was a wonderful thing, and I can't thank him enough. We approached him last year, and he took some time and he thought about it, and then he agreed to it. And the house was then taken apart board by board and then brought over here.
3 years ago, when Susette Kelo was told to get out of Fort Trumble, the city of New London said that retail developers were chomping at the bit to turn this into a business mecca. But as you can see, that hasn't exactly happened.
That's one of the tragedies of this entire story. They threw Susette Kelo, her neighbors, out of this wonderful neighborhood, and now 3 years after the Supreme Court decision, $78 million in taxpayer money spent, no new development.
But at 36 Franklin, things are a little rosier and a little more secure. Not for sale to anyone for 99 years. Abner Gregory agreed to that, but oh, that pink color. Abner struggled with that one.
Part of the agreement with the Institute of Justice and Susette Kelo was that I had to keep it pink. I know that you have a pink shirt on today, but I'm not so fond of the pink, and that was a little bit of a stumbling block.
But a deal was done, one that included a monument out front, a testament to her epic battle against eminent domain. And as John Mellencamp would say, ain't that America?